Hey, everybody, welcome to the Uncaped Mama podcast, where I help you shed the superwoman persona and just be. As a mama, as a woman, as a friend, as a supporter of mamas, this is just your place to exist. So, thank you for joining me. I am Dom Gonzalez, and I am your host. Let's dive in. Welcome back to my conversation with Samantha. We really got into it and we were getting to a good place, talking about healing spaces and allowing people to just be. And then all of a sudden, the work starts to get done and the healing starts to happen. So, quick introduction of Samantha, who has Mindful Mocha Mama as her platform. Go ahead, tell us what you do again, your socials, just for people who may be listening to part two first. And also, make sure y'all go back to part one and then listen to this all the way through. But real quick introduction, and then you can jump right into talking about this retreat that you hosted. Tell us the purpose and talk about like this healing space that you created.
Yes. So thanks again for having me. I'm so excited to continue our conversation. Um, yeah, you can find me at mindfulmochamama.com and on all the platforms, I'm Mindful Mocha Mama. And yeah, for me, as a holistic nurse practitioner who I am clinically trained to look at the body mechanistically as these parts, as these, you know, systems, right, that aren't necessarily talking to each other, right? So as I was going through my own healing, I was realizing that the more space that I was giving myself to just be, spontaneous healing was happening. And I would get, in deep meditation, I would get these revelations about how whole I am already and sort of set my intention and my focus on this whole energetic system. And I'm telling you, like, it was almost like an internal transformation. It started with emotional release. And
Yes.
as I was in that meditative state, I allowed the emotions to be there and to flow. Then it was like the physical body started to get back aligned. My blood pressure was out of control. I had with my I had high blood pressure when I was pregnant, and that sort of carried over in these high stakes, working environment. And it reached a peak during the pandemic when I was out here working as a frontline worker. And I was like, I have got to create space for me to heal. I feel like we're told that we have to look outside of ourselves to heal. I feel like we are constantly told that
Yeah.
somebody else owns our healing, and they try to sell it back to us in a soap, in a product, in a pill, whatever. I love soaps. I love soaps. I love body products. Give me a bath. I love it. In addition, don't try to go and, sell me something that needs to start here first. I feel like the wellness industry
Yeah.
has been hijacked,
Yes.
and capitalism has thrown up on it. And so I really like in my work, in my practice, to say, let's integrate all this,
Yes.
right? Your self-care practice can definitely involve you relaxing your body and your mind, taking a deep soak and allowing space for healing to occur. That's what's really happening. So don't try to go get a quick fix with these latest products and this latest dippity do thing. Like, you're really just needing some pointers to spaciousness, some pointers to help you say, this is my time for healing.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up products because, of course, I make products.
I
But
know.
here's
That's why
the
I was like, no,
thing.
I know. No,
Here's the
no.
thing is I've always said to enhance. There's
Yes.
nothing about what I create that alone is going to dramatically heal anything, right? Like you could use my turmeric soap on your face, which has all the healing properties to, cleanse your skin and nourish and remove the dirt and then, get rid of dark spots and brighten your skin and give you a glow. But if you aren't drinking water and getting enough rest and
Tell it.
managing your stress, and eating well and feeding your body what it needs, you're not going to have it. And that's actually not my fault. Like, it's actually not my fault. That is not the soap's fault. It's more to it. And so I'm honestly in a place of like shifting, pushing, like talking, because I think when you talk self-care, people think the product itself fixes everything. And the reality is there is no product anywhere that fixes everything. Even as I've gone on this health journey, I've really been focusing on my gut health. I take a supplement to support that and it helps. But if I also wasn't going to therapy, getting enough sleep, managing my stress, making sure that like my detox pathways actually work, you know, like then I would say, nope, that thing doesn't work and I don't need to drink it anymore. I think the other thing that you've talked about too, is you've talked about like mindfulness and like really getting into the core of yourself. And for me, I'm like, what about, I already connect with it. I agree. But for people who are like, ooh, that's too woo for me. And I'm a Christian and I believe like God fixes all and something outside of myself is going to do all of this. Like, how do you navigate those conversations?
I know, right? Because they're there. Like and I say I navigated with compassion. I was there.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, compassion
Yeah.
and having such a limited view of my own personal power, you know, giving everything to almighty that's outside of myself, and feeling like, you know, basically the victim of a doctrine that tells me I was, you know, born wrong, born, you know, and I have to be saved from myself, right? And for me, if that's what you continue, if that doctrine is helping you, if that doctrine is helping you connect, go for it. But for me, all it did was make me feel isolated from my own personal power. It made me feel like what I am right now is wrong, and I'm constantly striving to be something better. Okay. And to completely be always in the future like that is not healthy for our system. Our system relies on presence, alignment with your mind and your body, right? And that comes with being present. That comes with like, as I am, I accept myself. As I am, I'm going to feel my butt in this seat. These are practical things. Feel my butt in this seat. I'm going to sit here and drink this golden milk. You talked about turmeric earlier. I got golden milk.
Yay.
My golden milk, and whatever it is, and loving it. Not just like tolerating our current state, but literally embracing like where I am, good, bad, ugly, whatever the thoughts are about myself are just thoughts. That's what the core of mindfulness is. So anybody that's like, I have clients on the spectrum of spirituality.
Yep.
So even to my my Christian friends or my Christian clients, I can connect with them over, you are more than your thoughts. Okay. Yeah. You have thoughts that come and go. And what you need to do is help yourself take your power back and sit in awareness. And that's a muscle that needs to be built. You know, when you sit in awareness, you basically are changing the channel from these constant thoughts and barrages of identities or whatever, and you literally bring all your attention to your present moment. So that's the core of mindfulness. It is the foundation for healing because everything is in the present moment. Yep. And I remember when I did my first mindfulness retreat, I always start with this exercise where I tell folks, literally, whenever you go get your morning drink, I want you to see, like, write down or do some ticks, how often you are thinking about other things while you're making your drink. And then come back and tell me how many times, like, and I'm telling you, most of the time they have all these ticks, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how I'm not even here. Because that's what I'm telling you, you're not even here. you're somewhere in the future in other possibilities, other what ifs, and I got to do this, these tasks, or you're in the past, reliving wounds, reliving what happened yesterday, reliving. We're rarely in the present moment.
Yep.
And what we say earlier, that's energy. That's energy that's going away
Yes.
from yourself that you need to call back to yourself to heal. Because when you're in those different spaces like that, the future and the past, most of the time you're turning on your cortisol fight, flight, freeze mode.
Yep.
Okay. So we can't, so like I can always get people who may be in the different spiritual, I'm like, let's go back to the body then. Let's go back to the divineness of the body in that fight, flight, freeze mode. You want to be in that rest, digest, and heal mode. And that's only available in the present.
Yep.
Yes.
It's so interesting because people make mindfulness feel or seem like it's this super deep and like unreachable thing, but it's truly as simple as you're making your morning drink, whatever it is, water, your protein shake, your smoothie, your coffee, your tea. Did you recognize that you turned the water on?
Right.
Did you recognize you plugged the machine in? Did you recognize you grabbed the fruit and the vegetables and all your supplements? Or were you yelling at your husband and thinking about the argument from last night and thinking about, oh, shoot, I got 5 minutes before I got to, like, you weren't there.
Weren't there.
I think about all the times that I drive and I do not remember if I ran a red light or not. Like, I have no idea were all 5 of those lights like green or not because I was not there. So there are times I don't have any music on, especially when my kids are in the car, like either before or after dropping them off. People think it's strange. Like, how do you sit here in silence? And I'm like, the reason is I literally want to feel my feet on the pedals, my butt in the seat, my arm on the armrest. I want to see the speed limit. I want to feel the sun coming through the windows. I want to look and engage with the lights before I make a move because far too often I am not here. And it's actually, reflecting on it, was scary to have so many times where I'm like, did I close the garage? And I had to circle back around because I could not remember. The amount of times that I had to do that was unreal. The amount of times I'm like, I was a light green or red? Like, I don't know. I'm assuming I didn't run a red light. But the fact that I had a moment of awareness where I could not tell you if it was or not, I don't know how many cars there were. I don't even know what time it is.
Yep. That's everybody. It is an epidemic going on. And, you think about people like, oh my gosh, when people leave their kids in the car, I'm like, to me, yes, it's horrible, but also not far-fetched. Like you are in this automatic doing mode, autopilot zone constantly. And if you don't have a practice of bringing yourself back to the present moment, oh my gosh, like you can be on that. And don't let yourself be tired or triggered or sick, because the default mode is, the default mode is not a bad mode. It is, and this is what I try to bring awareness to people. It's like we are integrating. It is a protective mechanism because it takes a lot of energy to sort of, mobilize the body and think in this, so the body tries to conserve energy with the default mode, right? So you don't have to like learn everything from scratch every time you get up and make coffee. Like it's a wonderful, fantastic tool. But I feel like in our culture, we have now made default mode almost pathological. Because our society is built on a mechanistic idea of inputs, outputs, produce. So that default mode is like, oh, we're gonna do this thing. But it's so antithetical to our healing. It's so antithetical to our aliveness, like you said, like seeing the color of trees and noticing things and people just do not understand how important it is to build this muscle, because you can then, once your muscle is built, you can then look into yourself and become super aware of the slightest little, oh, my heart doesn't usually beat like this. And
Yeah.
oh, something like you become super tuned into your own body. And then you start to be more proactive when the balances are off. Like this is all part of the healing process. So it's like you have this calling your attention back to yourself. So your body's going to automatically heal, but then using cognition because now you're like you're more subtle with the differences and you can be proactive going to, your physician before,
Yes.
like I feel like something's off. I know my body. I have worked on myself, so I am a perfect self advocate for myself. And I need you to run this test for me.
Yeah.
Like that is where we need to be, especially as Black women. I have a heart for Black women. I am a Black woman, but we have some of the worst outcomes when it comes to maternal mortality, morbidity, and it's just not as simple as access to care. We need
No.
to have a whole shift. And I think what we're talking about, I know, because this is my life's work. I know this is part of it. This is part of
Yeah.
it. This is,
It's quick story time about
yeah.
this whole mindfulness journey and what it's done for me. So I kept working so hard
Mhm.
post teaching and trying to advance my career that I wasn't really listening to my body. So I was doing the stuff you're supposed to do, right? Eating right and working out, and I'm doing CrossFit and training for a half marathon, and I know I'm supposed to be sleeping, but like then I would be like paranoid. I got diagnosed with clinical anxiety and depression, ultimately, eventually ADHD as well, and PTSD after like some events. And I realized, like, in going through the motions of life and not really being present, one, I never celebrated any wins. I was never good enough for myself. It was like, well, yeah, I'm used to achieving. So, like, okay, but of course, I got that done, but like, that's not the thing. I'm really trying to be that.
Yeah.
And so I had gotten to a place also where I just told you I was doing all these healthy things,
Mm-hmm.
but because I was uncomfortable feeling and being present to allow like those natural emotions to happen, I would drink
Mm.
excessively.
Yeah.
I wake up and like I had a cocktail. Like I would just,
Yeah.
and it was excessive. And I got to a point where 2018 was tough mentally.
Mm.
And if you looked at Facebook and stuff, you're like, wow, she's doing some cool stuff in 2018. I went to Morocco and Paris, and then we
Mm-hmm.
went to Colombia, and I was doing this and that. My business launched that year actually because of
Mm-hmm.
me realizing I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm severely paranoid.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here anymore
Yeah.
because all of a sudden I like feel feelings creeping in and I'm not able to drink enough to stop it. And so I went and got help, and I got treatment. And one of the first things we talked about was like mindfulness and feeling. And I'm in a group of mostly women, a lot of women of color. A good chunk of us were Black women. And we all had the same story with a slight difference. Either you were married and you were at work, but you were unhappy and you didn't want to feel. You were me and you were working really hard, but you were like paranoid. I can't get out of this relationship that really sucks. And I don't want to feel. So I'm doing this, pulling my hair out because I don't want to feel because feeling doesn't allow me to accomplish things. I
Yeah.
mean, like same story. There were a few men in the group and they also had stuff, but it wasn't the same.
Not the same.
Like it wasn't the same. And that you could sort of see like the two men in the group when we would be in our therapy sessions, kind of like often they would want to pass and say, I actually don't want to talk about my stuff because it's not that. And I
Mm.
really want to support her. Like the men were like, I did not realize the pressure put on women. And I'm
Wow.
supposed to be here for healing too, but they're like, whoa. And they started to vocalize this. And I realized, okay, yeah, I'm not comfortable in the present. Because of depression, I'm always in the past.
Yes.
Because of anxiety, I'm always in the future. Because of
Yes.
PTSD, I'm always in that moment, that specific moment
Yep.
that's in the past.
Yep.
And I didn't know that I had ADHD at the time, but because of that, I'm not even here. Like
Yeah.
I'm somewhere. I'm like 17 places at once. I'm not here.
Isn't that, to me, this is just mind boggling. It is so, because it is so true. for
Yeah.
so many women, Black women in particular. We are taught from a young age, to suppress that. You
Yeah.
know, that's why I'm so passionate about bringing the idea of the divine feminine into my mindfulness sessions, because I know there's a lot of kind of gender talk and stuff going on right now, but this is beyond gender. There
Yeah.
is a balance, a divine masculine and a divine feminine balance to the world.
Yes.
And the divine feminine brings in flow, right?
Yes.
And that is representative of emotional flow. That's why traditionally women have been seen as the more emotional sort of you know I don't want to say species. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
emotional gender, sex, the more emotional sex. But what really is at the core of it is that we live in a patriarchal world, and the divine feminine, the more emotional body, has been stamped out of us, and so many of us don't even want to be in the present moment. We want to do everything possible to get out of the present moment because there's so much stuffed emotions in the present moment that we don't want to look at, address. We're
Oh,
scared, and that's one of the main things that I do is I help people realize that, and this is through my own healing. I let myself feel all the emotions and go all the way deep down in the dark to see that I'm still here. Like, you will not fall apart when you feel. You will not completely disintegrate. You will still be here once you allow everything to go to shit or feel all the I try to describe the emotions very specifically to help people, like, okay, where do you feel it? You feel knots in your stomach, your heart feels like it's going to explode, you feel like something is around your neck constricting you.
sure. Is there pressure in your head? Is it your feet? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, come to your body, connect with it, and finish out that series of emotions. Don't cut it off.
Yeah.
Don't dismiss it. Don't stuff it down. Let it. And most of the time when I tell them, you feel it in your throat, now what do you want to do? Do you want to yell it out? Do you want to shake it out? Do you want to hit something? Where's the anger? Like, we don't let ourselves.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, once I create safe spaces for
Yeah.
women to feel that and do that, so much spontaneous healing happens. So much of the things that they know are true for themselves become clear. So
Yeah.
many of they're reconnected to their own inner intuition. That's the most beautiful thing that I see out of the work that I do. It's like people get connected to their own inner intuition and their own inner knower, and you can't tell them nothing after that.
No, it's so funny because I was about to say that, like, that journey allows you to know your voice from every other voice. Like, I am now able, and I want to say, like, healing's at a destination. There are some things I have yet to experience that I won't experience until I actually, like, me and my fiance get married and we're in a house together and something specific happens, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know what this is, but we're both unhealed around that. Like, right? Like, it's not a destination. There are things that come. But I will
Yep.
tell you, I used to struggle, especially when I identified as a Christian, to know my voice from God's voice from something else's. I'm like, I don't even have a voice
Yeah.
because God's supposed to be telling me what to do.
Yeah.
And I definitely can't distinguish it from somebody else's voice because all I hear is my voice in my head. All you hear is your voice in your head.
Yep.
But your voice could literally be repeating to you somebody else's stuff that was
Yes.
put on you. And when you're able to hear your intuition, it's like you know it. You're like,
Mhm.
yes, I shouldn't do that. And I don't really know why. That's not the move. It starts
Mhm.
to reveal itself. Or I really feel like doing this today. I feel like that would be good for me. I'm just gonna sit outside and do nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that. And if somebody comes by and says, you didn't do anything today, I did a lot today, actually for myself. And like I'm able to unapologetically say, this matters too, right? All of that, being able to hear your own intuition clearly allows you to move so much
Yes.
faster. And I would even say that emotional sort of spectrum, even those moments pass a lot faster. As somebody who used to pray that I could be like those people who could just let things go. And by the way, some of those people who are telling you, just let it go, I can let it go, they're actually not. They're going away by themselves in a closet in agony because they
Right.
are not feeling. They think they're releasing it and they're not.
Yeah.
So it's in their body somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But I literally just told my therapist last Thursday at our session, I'm really proud of myself because the more mindful I am and the more I make space for me to just feel all the stuff, the
Mm.
disappointment and then the anger and then the guilt and then the anger at me being feeling angry and guilty and blah blah blah. Like I'm like, it literally ends up being like an hour. And then I
Yes.
feel it now, it's like on my body. And so then I go move around. I dance, I go
Yes.
wash it off in the shower. Maybe it's workout time. Maybe I go on a walk with the kids. Maybe I just play with them, you know, because like now it's time for me to get them. Maybe I cook. Maybe I go make, I try not to make products when I've got that kind of energy on because I
Yeah.
don't get energetic transfer. So I try
Mhm.
not to like fulfill orders then. Uh,
Yeah.
but I will go and do stuff. And after that, I feel fine. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that thing really made, but I'm able to process what about it was an issue. That made me angry because blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Is there something I control about changing that? What is it? Because there's always a piece of something I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to take on everybody else's work. And so
Yeah.
I might be like, I'm really frustrated that if he ever hears this podcast, he's gonna be like, not you talking about me on your podcast, but whatever. Kai didn't answer the phone. Every time I call him, he's at work and he's on a meeting. Of course, he's on
Yeah.
a meeting. He's like the chief something something officer. I don't even know. Don't even ask me, y'all. I don't know.
What do you do?
But of course, he's in a meeting when I call at 8:35. Like,
Right.
of course he is.
Yeah.
Every day at 8:35, he doesn't answer. You know.
Yep.
And then I'm like, Dom, did you have anything like to really tell him? No.
Right.
What did you want? I just wanted to hear his voice and you know tell him I love him or tell him something funny that the kids did. Okay. So if every time at the beginning of the day he's in a meeting, maybe you shouldn't call him at the beginning of the day during a meeting if it's not urgent. Maybe you can text him or voice memo him the story. Does he always look at those and respond to those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now you just went through all the emotions of like being mad at him about something when really like it's kind of not that deep. Like it is. Me feeling the connection
Feeling is
that I
real.
had to him is great. And the feeling of like, I just want us to connect in this moment, there's actually nothing wrong with that.
No.
But you're breaking your own heart at this point because you keep doing it.
Yes.
And now you're a little embarrassed and like you're ashamed, you're angry. But because I got to feel all of that, I got to a place of like, okay, so what's the solution? When he does call you back, tell him, hey, I miss you. I was going to tell you something really funny. I'll tell you later on. Or I'm going to send you a voice memo, or I'm going to send you a picture of the kids and like what they did during daycare drop off. Hope you had a good morning. Just remind me later to tell you the story about blah, blah, blah. It's too much to type. Now ain't nobody mad. I don't forgot the story.
You moved through. You were able to move through it. Like
Yes.
that's the piece that I feel like everybody needs to know. If you don't get nothing from what we talked about, the emotional allowing those emotions to go work out itself non-judgmentally,
Yeah.
allow them the full manifestation and complete manifestation. And guess what? The more you do it, the quicker you can process and the clearer you are with the conscious actions that you want to take with it. And your actions aren't full of trauma and triggers and you're
Yeah.
lashing out because you haven't fully processed the emotional piece first.
Yeah. And also like God, creator, source, whatever you believe, didn't just dry give us emotions and feelings,
Right.
like just to be having them, just for us to suppress. They do indicate things,
Oh,
right?
it's
Like
data.
they're an indicator of something. And so you don't want to just release or move on or bury or hide from or judge yourself for having the feeling. Like every single person, all gender identities, all sexes have these
Yes.
feelings. And we tell men that they're not allowed to be emotional when they are. We've just told them which ones are acceptable. It's
Yeah.
acceptable for a man to be angry. And a
Yep.
man can be happy and a man can celebrate, but a woman has to be humble. She can't
Yeah.
celebrate. She can't be overly happy. She can't cry. She can't, then she also can't be angry. And then she can't feel guilty. Like that's what we start to tell people, but really we can be all of those things. It is, what do we do with it? The
Yeah.
amount of people that are hurting, that have moved to a place of harming themselves or harming others, it's because we don't create safe spaces for them to be. So when my kids are crying and I think about all the moments where you hear people say, you don't have anything to cry about. Yes, they do. I may not understand like what it is right now because they can't tell me, but most people aren't just crying from nothing. Right?
Yeah.
That's coming from somewhere, whether it's like a happy cry, like, oh my gosh, it was so beautiful and breathtaking and awe-inspiring that I'm like crying, or like something hurts physically, emotionally, like mentally, something hurts and it's causing pain, and therefore I'm crying. Or like, hey, it's allergies.
Right.
And my eyes are itching. And either way, if we're not taking the moment to process that, you can't even get to the point of being like, oh, I just need some Zyrtec. You know what I'm saying? Or like, I can't move there because if you tell me I'm not allowed to have a certain emotion, a certain feeling, a certain response to certain, like, how are we telling people they can't be disappointed?
I know, right?
How are we
Oh,
telling people that? Like, how am I telling a 1-year-old she can't be upset that she fell and hit her knee as she's learning how to walk?
yeah.
And then every other time she hits her knee, oh, it's not that bad, even though like she may not have a scrape, but it could hurt. You know,
Yeah.
like we can't have environments like that. There needs to be a safe space.
We have to be really intentional about our spaces. I
Yeah.
mean, that is one of my, that is like my calling, like the space, because honestly, I feel like there, I'll put another layer to what you were saying. Oftentimes kids are picking up on energies that's not even their energy. So you saying you shouldn't be crying, you should, what are you, and they're picking up on your repressed stuff because they're so sensitive. So you in turn are punishing them for your own lack of emotional intelligence for something they picking up off of you. Like that's a whole nother layer that we're not aware of. And we're just doing harm. We're just spewing harm on these kids.
Non-stop harm everywhere. And not even, and there's so, I mean, this goes back to a point you made earlier, like with no awareness.
Yeah.
Just like no, because we are on autopilot, we're in the past or we're in the future, we're not making time to be intentionally in the moment. Because the reality is like, y'all, you're not always going to be in the moment, right? Like not intentionally like grounded in the moment. That takes intentionality, but you will
Yeah.
get better at awareness and noticing. But like the amount of times that we're not in that and you lack that awareness, we're all just literally here.
Yep.
No awareness, no emotional intelligence, no understanding, no compassion. We're not moving in love. We don't realize we're a reflection of each other. We don't realize energetically we are all connected by something. And now we got friendships falling out. We got manipulation.
Yep.
You got the rise of the narcissist. You've got people desperately wanting to be loved by the gender of folks they're attracted to. But
Yep.
they spend all day talking about how they don't like that gender and none of them can be good enough for them. Like it's every day I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, I think I used to be deep in these conversations. And now I'm at a place of like, everybody actually wants the same thing. Nobody wants to talk to each other. Nobody wants to slow down for a second and get in touch with themselves. Nobody is even hearing themselves.
Yep.
We
Yep.
can't, we're going to repeat a cycle for generations, right? Over and over and over again, unless, and I do believe actually we're at a place where there's a tipping point and people desire authenticity. They want
Mm-hmm.
true healing. They want balance. They want fairness and equity. People are getting to a place where like I literally just want to exist and I want that person to exist and I don't want anybody to be intentionally harmed. Like I
Yeah.
just we're getting there. And so the
Yeah.
fact that you are
So too.
creating the spaces and starting with moms, especially Black moms in
Yes.
America, is huge. Like it's just I did not realize like how much physical, mental, and spiritual healing would come from being a mom of one.
Motherhood. Yeah.
But having the second one and having like that postpartum
Yeah.
anxiety and depression, and like, I mean, I was in the trenches.
Yeah.
Like I could not see color.
Yeah.
I remember the day vividly that I came out of that darkness. I don't know what the turning point was, but I remember walking outside in winter, and this was just a few months ago. So it was like December. So my child was over 1 at this point. My other child was over 2.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, the sun is bright and it's hot. Like it's on my chest." Like I said it out loud. And I'm like, "Oh, nobody's with me." And then I was like, "You can see color." Like I was living in gray. Like just
Mm.
I couldn't, I was struggling. I knew I was struggling at work. Like couldn't get words out, couldn't get work done that I knew that I could do. I didn't really want to talk to people. And when I did, I'm like, "Oh yeah, everything's good." And I was just like sort of making jokes and whatever. Didn't really want to do business anymore and was like, "I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not really helping people." I questioned every day if I still wanted to be a mom. I literally would tell myself after they were gone, this probably wasn't my calling. I don't think this actually was a spiritual connection. I don't think my children, how could my children have chosen me? I am a
Yeah.
mess. I am doing terrible. I think I should just make my fiance a single dad and go on about my business. Like I
Yes.
don't know that I am supposed to do this. Like,
I love that you're sharing this real talk.
and then I had, and then I said, "Okay, you need help. Like,
Yeah.
go to your resources. Let's talk about this
Mhm.
in a safe, personal space with somebody who can likely relate."
Mhm.
And by the way, my fiance is a psychologist, so like he's not the place to go do that because he's not a psychologist mode when I say I'm hurting. He's in like, man, I gotta protect her mode. So like that doesn't work. So I go to my psychiatrist, I go to my therapist, I go to a safe space, like another Black mom who I know can relate. And I'm like, I just have to get it out. And then they ask,
Yeah.
"What would you like to do? Do you want advice? Do you want support? Do you want resources? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Actually, I think I just needed to get it out.
I just need to be heard. I just need to
I
get
just
it.
needed the space."
The space.
I
Like,
couldn't say it to my mama. That's a
I,
whole, you're gonna have to come back so we can talk about
I know. I
but
think we talked
I
about
couldn't
that
tell my mom.
before. Like,
Yeah.
generational stuff is real. And I think it's such an integral part of Black motherhood healing for future generations. We actually need to go back because the past is living with us in ourselves right now, is living with us and it's informing the future. So we have an opportunity to heal that which was passed down to us. We have to take accountability for it now. So I'm excited to talk about that too.
Yes. This was such a good conversation, both parts. Um, in the last minute, what do you want to leave with people when it comes to mindfulness, healing, safe spaces, generational healing, connections with people? Like what's the message you want people to know? Take the whole minute.
I think because I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed with the healing journey and they think they got to go out and do all the things. And what Mindful Mocha Mama is about is literally like doing less, like do less. Get into a space where you have boundaries and that is safe and that you can carve out time where you literally can just be with yourself, right? And bringing your attention to the present moment, whatever feelings come up, whatever. I mean, 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day. It's not a one-to-one ratio. This thing has like exponential benefits. So
Yeah.
your 2 minutes is a seed. Your 3 minutes is a portal to a new you. It's a new life. It's like a little doorway. So don't think, oh, just 3 minutes. Oh, that's just like literally, it is the little portal to shift you into a whole new way of being. So I encourage every single mama out there to do this because I know y'all want to be, show up for your family in a better way and show up for yourself in a better way. So you got to make the time to do it.
I love that. I love that as a final message. Make sure y'all follow Mindful Mocha Mama. Thank you for tuning in to the Uncaped Mama podcast. Follow me on social media on Instagram, Uncaped Mama and care_Bath and Body. I hope that you found this episode inspiring, relatable, and impactful. And I hope that this triggers a thought in you to be a better support system to a mama near you. Help her to put down the superwoman persona, to put her cape down, to be whole, to be all that she is destined to be as a mother and more. See you next time.